Lindor is an active citizen, a father, a son, a brother, and he is also the founder and CEO of Happly.ai, with a mission to democratize funding and economic opportunities across the business landscape. After a quick stint as a professional basketball player in France, he dove headfirst into entrepreneurship. Additionally, he's represented Canada within the United Nations and the G20 on a global stage. And now, there are some folks who show up for the pictures, but Thierry was always there to get the work done. As COVID was hitting underrepresented communities, he was showing up and making sure that they were represented. He started a program called Colors of COVID that mapped out the impacts of COVID within Canada, and that got the attention of StatsCan, which is a government organization that led to the creation of a $265 million initiative called the Black Entrepreneurship Program, including a lending fund to start and scale Black businesses within Canada. Thierry is now bridging the gap between entrepreneurs and hundreds of billions of dollars in non-dilutive funding. So today, I'm going to ask him, how in the world do you raise startup funding for a brand new company in the age of AI? Thierry, welcome to Agent Factory. Thank you so much for being here today. I have so many questions for you, but in that background that I just listed, I think the professional basketball background is really interesting. And I've noticed talking to entrepreneurs and founders, it seems like so many of them have this like athletics background. And I wonder if you've noticed that thread as well. Is that something that you've picked up on? But welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Luke. I'm really blessed and highly favored to be there. But yeah, on the subject of athletes and entrepreneurs, 100%. I, for myself, played basketball growing up. I ended up playing professional basketball in France. And there's actually scientific literature on the subject. We call it short memory reset as athletes. It's the ability to suppress on demand the last mistakes you might have made. So, for example, in basketball, you turn the ball over, you have to go right back and play defense, right? Right now, we're during the World Cup mania. When this podcast will go, we'll probably know who won the World Cup. But Messi, I promise you, of Argentina, has the capacity to turn off the last mistake he made to go back and play defense and maybe recuperate the ball. And I think that translates really well to actually entrepreneurship. And the scientific literature is actually coined as direct forgetting or error resilience. And it's a study by the Association of Applied Sports Psychology that coined that term. And it is exactly that. What does it mean for an entrepreneur to be able to not be defined by the last line of code they wrote or the last deal that you lost, right? And being able to bounce back and say, I just lost $1,000 a year B2B, but I just won because I'm able to bounce back and suppress that last memory. I'm winning a procurement for $1 million with the federal government. And that ability, I find, is something that is worked on from a very young age as a basketball player, an hockey player, a tennis player, and can be absolutely converted into valuable resources and asset as an entrepreneur from the court to the stage, like we like to say. But athletes, I think, are competitive by nature and have the ability to bounce back, which is an unequivocally good advantage to have as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that resilience, that grit, that seems really critical. I found that obviously, I'm 6'2", but a complete waste as far as athletic ability. I played basketball in middle school, and that was the last of it. I very much give off the vibe. And it's true that my sport in high school was theater. So,
okay.
but I love that concept because I feel like that also holds true in software development, software engineering, where like you've got a bug and like everything was awful and like your day just didn't go the way, but you don't say like, well, no, I'm just not going to write code again tomorrow, or we're not going to try and ship anything, because you've got to persist, right? Like we took the site down for 2 hours the last time we deployed, the last time we shipped something. We can't just decide that we're never going to ship again. So
that's it. Jira or your DevOps don't care about your last bad line of codes. Move on to the next one, write a better one. And nowadays, with all the Google tools that we have, Lord knows that resiliency can not just be automated, but could become a real advantage. So yes, I think there's good transferable skills from athleticism or sports onto, and even like esports to a certain extent. Like, not to dive too deep into it, but playing something competitive at a young age and then moving on to entrepreneurship or building something of value, I think has definitely links that are undisputable.
Yeah. So I do want to pull you back for what I brought you here today, which was not to grill you about sports and your basketball prowess.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about funding and how a startup can actually get the money that they need in order to advance. And I imagine that that's changed just a ton in the last few years with the advent of AI. So what do you think about like bootstrapping in the age of AI? Because I know that that's where so many founders start, is with that.
Yeah, so bootstrapping is the ability to do with what you have, right? To have lemonade vodka with a basic lemon, right? To do a lot with very little. And I think the big advantage of bootstrapping in the age of AI is you are able to build a $10 million product with a $100,000 team, right? That is a competitive advantage that is uniquely true to 2026 and moving forward. It's been true for the past couple of years, but I think that the ability to bootstrap is very real. And more importantly, at Happly, we're not just bootstrap, but we're also profitable, which means also we don't have to ask permission to move fast. Think about this, Luke. It used to be that if you're too big, things move slow, right? But now if you are bootstrapped and you are able to be profitable and access these pockets of funding thanks to AI and solutions like ours, you are able to move swiftly without that famous permission of asking your board, your investors, what do they think, and so on and so forth. We're at a unique time to build something very meaningful that could impact society as a whole.
Yeah. So this podcast is for those who are technically inclined. We've done a lot of like deep dives on technology and software and tokenomics and all of those things. But I'm wondering where you come in. Can I maybe grill you on these terms? So we've talked about bootstrapping. Another word is non-dilutive funding.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk me through those terms and where, like maybe these are software developers, these are software engineers, they built agents, they've been watching Agent Factory for a while, and they're like, I think this could become a business. I think I have an idea here. How do you know when to go? Where do you start?
First and foremost, for anybody, especially the folks that are listening to this podcast, y'all are the future. Right? Because guys and gals that are more like business oriented, I believe in the near future, the technical founders will have a massive edge based on what can be done to access this non-dilutive funding. And as such, if you're able to access the non-dilutive funding, leveraging AI, leveraging Google tools, or whatever tech stack you're working with, the real advantage that you have leveraging your technical skills is that most of the non-dilutive funding, and just let's clearly illustrate that, dilutive funding, you have to dilute yourself. You have to give up something. The analogy I always give is a pie, a pizza pie, right? If you go the dilutive route, you have to raise a pre-seed round. You have to dilute yourself. You have to give a piece of your pie, of your pizza pie very early on.
Okay, so as a lay person, I'm trying to understand that as like, is that like Shark Tank basically, where like
Correct.
somebody comes in and you say like, all right, they're going to take 7%. That's dilutive funding. Okay,
that is dilutive funding. Those are people that are injecting capital into your company in exchange for equity, so parts of your pizza, right?
Okay,
that is the analogy. So you might have the greatest idea in the world, but if you don't have a way to fund it, if you don't have capital injection, then good luck. And we know there are 4 key barriers to scaling anything. You have to have access to capital, access to network, access to mentorship, and access to knowledge. For the technical folks out there, you have access to the knowledge. Logically, you have access to good mentorship and good networks. But if you want to access the capital, you're either going to dilute yourself to a shark that's going to take a big part of your company. But if you value your idea and what you're building, you want to protect that. So you want that pizza pie to stay to you. That is the non-dilutive sector. And it includes mainly, Luke, but not exclusively, loans, grants, procurements, subsidies, wage subsidies, as well as anything that has to do with tax credits. That's kind of the bulk of it all. And people don't know this, but if you include procurement, it is a $2 trillion industry in North America alone.
Oh,
just geez. North America.
That's a massive number. I thought you were going to say billion with a B after you said 2. I was like, 2 billion?
Trillion.
Substantial.
Trillion.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that is massive. That seems like a terrific opportunity for people to dive into, for people to get the chance to get a slice of that. But I have a question as people are going into that. So I know you've talked about democratizing wealth. One thing I wanted to needle you on and kind of poke at this idea is the idea that AI is going to democratize this ability for people to get that wealth. And I've been thinking about this since I knew this conversation was going to come up. Is it really just like, does it democratize wealth, or does it just make it so that, whoever spends the most on AI
Correct.
has the advantage here? And is it basically giving that opportunity to the people who have always had it and can now spend an extra buck on automating that process for themselves?
That is a great question. And what we like to say is that if AI is just going to open a door, then what if the door to that restaurant or that house is extremely privileged? What if you don't come from the right network? What if you don't have the right buddies? What if your dad doesn't work at the right firm? What if your mom doesn't play golf at the right golf course, right? Mm-hmm. So then AI just amplifies those privileges. And more importantly, it doesn't just amplify. I believe it could be risky and make them permanent, lock them in for the very, very long run. So there has to be intentionality in the democratization aspect as well. And that's where I think that AI built by diverse founders, folks that have diverse experience. And I'm not just talking about color here. I'm talking about diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. Because I've come to realize that for example, I am of African descent. I grew up in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Montreal, Canada, and probably top 5 worst neighborhood by all metrics in North America. But I also realized that even though I'm African descent, there might be somebody in Omaha, Nebraska, for example, that might not have the same skin color of me, but has had the same socioeconomic challenges as I have, that doesn't have the right network, doesn't have the right knowledge, doesn't have the right mentorship. And that's where AI, I think, becomes very powerful. The word democratization is thrown by everybody and anybody out there, right? But the main problem, Luke, is a lot of people don't even know it exists. And that's where I think technology comes in. Technology has the right loop. In French, we say une loupe, right? The right, you're able to look at exactly where that funding is. You're able to grab it. You're able to put it in front of you and say, okay, now what do I do? How do I apply for it? How do I get it? How do I land it? And I think that's where you have the opportunities. For anybody listening to this, if you have hopes to create an impactful company that one day gets acquired or sells for billions of dollars, newsflash, you will not be able to do it without accessing non-dilutive funding. Impossible.
Interesting. Okay, so you've convinced me that it's necessary. I will say that I'm still not entirely convinced that AI will guarantee that it goes to the broader group of people and will not just be harnessed by the people who are already have the greatest amount of access to that today. What is it that sort of gives you hope here? Or what do you think is the tool that people can use in order to go and find these funds that are available to them?
Now, that is the best question of this entire podcast.
Okay.
Because what kind of founder would I be if I did not say the tool is Happly AI, Luke? Of course, duh.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
So our tool is used by 84,000 users. They have landed by themselves $90 million, and they have created 2,000 jobs in the communities they serve. And if there was ever a mic drop, that's where it happens. Because if I had to tell you the truth, 84% of our users are either women, people of color, indigenous people, and people that actually don't have access to all of these connections, these contacts. Or guess what? We have tons of researchers on our platform, people that do research for a living. We have teachers, teacher assistants, the TAs that want to prove to their teacher, hey, I could land that grant. And if I do, I want a permanent job at Yale. I want a permanent job at MIT. And these people come sometimes from not the most privileged background. They're doing the real work. And the people listening to this call right now are coding away, are bringing such massive IP to the table, but they don't realize that a lot of time when it comes to this tax-paying dollar monies that is left on the table, they're left on the menu. And that's what Happly AI is doing. It's not promising you that you're going to get it. It's promising, one, that it's going to match you with the right amount of funding, right? Two, once it matches you, it's going to leverage the data that you have given it and provided it, vectorize it, aggregate it, and auto-populate the application for you up to 95% of it, leveraging OCR, NLP, and computer vision. And then last but not least, we created a writing engine kind of like a Grammarly, Luke. But instead of correcting for grammar mistakes, It corrects and anticipates grant writing mistakes, right? And that has been how our users have been able to land $90 million in 3.5 years. And we're really proud of that fact because we know that that money is going to founders that really need it. The ones that don't have the connections, but they are using technology and leveraging innovation to get a piece of the pie, not stay on that menu, but be at the table.
Like somebody who's written a grant 10, 20 times, someone who's on the payroll for one of these larger companies who is able to fill in the boxes correctly, who knows all of the right things to say, essentially giving that level of guidance to someone. Okay. All right. I want to see it.
Awesome. Maybe we could check it out right now.
Let's go ahead and dive into it then. Can you show me what you've got? What are you showing us today?
All right. So right here, you would start obviously by creating an account. You would go and log in to your Happly account. And then because of the questions that you've answered and the information about your website, your business plan, your financial projections, you are going to be matched with opportunities, right? I'm skipping over some details, but you get the gist of it. And then once you have all this plethora of opportunities, you get to qualify them or disqualify them based on what you're looking to do, right? What are you looking to do in the next 9 days, in the next 9 weeks, or in the next 9 months? You could go after tax credit, incubators, accelerators, grants, and even procurements, right? Setting yourself up so that you don't have to give too big of a piece of the pie, and then you're able to go forward. You click on the opportunity itself, you could actually go look at the details. What are the chances of you lending this and why? And if you need help, you could also access our Grant Whisperer marketplace.
Okay. All right. So this is the initial match. Basically, I give Happly AI a whole bunch of information about the company. And then how does it make those connections? How is it able to do that from like a technical perspective? How does it match me with these companies? Is it just I dump in a whole bunch of text and we're asking Gemini behind the scenes, like find a grant for this? How's that work?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. You basically give information. My name is Thierry. I'm in Montreal. I am of African descent or not. I am this age and so on and so forth. It grabs the information of the individual, actually vectorizes that information, and then is able to cross-reference this with all of our opportunities. We have over 3,000 opportunities, close to $3 billion of opportunities. And then it cross-references this and then makes sure that whatever you have in your portal lines up with the information that you have shared with us. So the more information you share, the more opportunities you get. And more importantly, the more you write, which is the next part that we're exciting. Because we like to say we do three things, right? We help you match, we help you apply, and we help you qualify. The matching is not really where the real magic happens. It's where the next part of the demo is pretty cool. And that's actually how we got in touch and in contact into the amazing village that I like to call the Google for Startup Village. And as a proud villager of that village, I think we've built something pretty robust. Big shout out to Kevin as well as Iran, actually, for the Google for Startup family and village. We're really proud and blessed to be part of.
All right, I can tell you're trying to move me to that next demo. I'm not going to let you pull me quite there yet because you used the word vectorization, which for a lot of people who are in this AI space is maybe a new word, but for a lot, it will be something they've heard of before and something they're familiar with. So can you do your definition of what is vectorization and how does it play a role in this matching process?
It essentially grabs important parts of data, compacts it, and make sure that it produces something that could be aggregated and potentially disaggregated and something of value to you as a user. That's how I would summarize it.
Okay. So along all of these different dimensions, this grant lives over here in space and you're over here in space. That might not be a good fit, but this grant is right next to you. And that's the one we're going to recommend for you.
Correct. Because you live in Montreal and you don't live in Minnesota, for example, or because you self-identify as being indigenous or of the LGBTQ plus community, this is something that we're able to match you with or not.
The Minnesota one feels a little bit targeted, Thierry, but we're gonna move past it and move on. So I will.
It's colder in Montreal than Minnesota, by the way. I will challenge you on the cold factor. Montreal's colder than Minnesota.
All right, we'll have that fight in January. We'll come back to it. We'll decide if we're measuring in Fahrenheit or Celsius, and we'll go wait, throw our punches at that time. Let's hop over. Yeah, let's see. So the second part of this, where you're going and you're completing the form. So you found a grant that you're interested in. You found something that fits for you. Yeah, what happens now?
I used to be a coder, vibe coder, or engineer at this company. I start my own thing, and guess what? I matched with Y Combinator. I download the Happly Google extension, the Chrome extension, and now I start the process. Why? Because I didn't even know what Y Combinator was, but I matched with it. I understand it's an accelerator, and I've never filled out an application. I have a decent business plan, but here I am clicking away, and the platform is legit reading through the entire application, and you could answer one by one each question, or thanks to our patent pending, at least in Canada, one-click apply solution, you could even move towards an auto-population of the entire application one time. But now, for example, we're seeing a clear example of it generating an answer. You don't like it, you get to challenge it and ask it to rewrite. You could obviously take it, copy and paste it directly into the application for Y Combinator. And it's getting this information from what you shared with us. Those couple of questions, 20, 30 questions, but your business plan, your website itself, your LinkedIn profile, even to a certain extent. And now we're seeing it go to work on auto-populating the entire thing, because you just woke up and you realize that because you got a pop-up in your profile on the Happly platform, you only have about an hour left to fill out this application. So right now it's generating the entire answers for you. And we like to say at Happly that the more you write, the more you win. So it keeps on learning on successfully landed or unsuccessfully landed applications. And right now it is fetching information once again, running it through the vectorization process as well as Gemini, and then pumping out automated answers for you. So it's taking a little bit of time to generate right now, and that's because you asked it to do the entire application one time. Obviously, if you go step by step, it could then be a lot quicker or faster, but then you might want to be able to do something else while it's pumping out those answers for you.
Got it. Okay, so it's going based on the information that you have within Happly. I love this idea because this feels similar in some ways to, I remember applying to a whole bunch of different jobs, and I love the form factor of it being a browser extension.
Correct.
Where it's just like always there. You can just pop it open and it can read the screen in that way and then give you the answers. I don't know why I haven't seen, and they probably are out there. It's probably just the niche that I fall into, where it's like everything's an MCP server, but I love the form factor.
Correct.
Having that as an extension. That is very cool. And I wonder if people are doing that with their agents.
And it's the biggest game changer for us. And again, big shout out to the team at Google for Startup Canada. When we got selected as one of 10 AI startups in Canada, that was last year, and again, Iran and Kevin, the entire team there, we were so privileged to work with people that have solution to the imbroglios that we were facing, because we didn't have all the answers. We had a vision. We knew that our competitors did not go the Chrome extension route, because let's face it, there are a lot of people operating in that space. They usually tend to do the smart matching, and then they're really lead generating to try to sell you to go with an actual grant writer, and then they take a cut of whatever you write. We're B2B and B2G SaaS. So you come in, you pay your monthly SaaS like you would for any other SaaS, and then you get to write those things yourself and not leave any money on the table, but not overspend also for, in my opinion, an overrated grant writer. This is really your tool, catered to your business, and really learning from what you land and what you don't land. And it really gets pretty good. We don't have time today, but I would be lying to you if I said I didn't use it to get inside of the Google for Accelerator. That's actually how I did my pitch on the demo day. I said, "Hi, everybody. Guess how I got here?" and everybody started to laugh, right? So and people might say, "Well, is it cheating?" Well, I don't think it's cheating, because in reality, it allows me to get in front of humans that could hear what I think I'm building and that I think it has value. And more importantly, it doesn't remove the fact that you could have a great application, but if you can't pitch it communicate why it has value and benefits to Canada, benefits to society, we would have never gotten into Google for Startup Accelerator. And thanks to the Google for Startup Accelerator, our Chrome extension has rapidly got onto the market. And now it's becoming, I'd say at first we anticipated maybe 10% of our revenue. It's moving towards 30, 40%. And it is such a good revenue stream for us because people could self-on board and they just punch in their credit card. So we're getting a lot of traction with that Chrome extension, and we're really proud of the work we've accomplished thanks to the mentorship of the people at Google.
Yeah, that is an incredible program that I can take no credit for, but I'm so glad to hear that is providing that value to folks, and they're getting those opportunities from it. Okay, that was very interesting. I will say, I did come in skeptical. I didn't expect to change my opinion so quickly, but I do see how, yes, for the people who have access to a grant writer today and are going to continue to use that grant writer, those organizations have the opportunity to still complete these forms and compete at this level. But if you don't have that ability, this gets you up, maybe not all the way to that level. I assume talented grant writer can know the ins and outs of exactly how to tailor this thing, but can get you maybe close to that and present your opportunity, your idea in a much better light than someone like me who has never written a grant proposal before could possibly do.
And what you're raising, Luke, is an excellent point. I'll tell you why. It's because we used to think that our main customer, our ICP ideal customer profile, was just people looking for money. But we've built both sides of the infrastructure, and it's not by luck, it's by design. So we have solutions for people that are looking for money and people that are providing money. And in that aspect, we are becoming very dangerous because it's not just the demand side. We also have access to the people that are building the forms for the questions that they want you to answer. And I will go a step further because I think what you deposited and the way I received it was maybe a grant writer could still do this better. The analogy we like to give is like a car sharing company, right? Who are the best user of a technology? Is it the person asking for a ride or the person providing a ride? Most of our biggest consumers, our enterprise users, are actually grant writers. Why? Because you, Luke, starting a business with an ex-Google employee that is a data scientist might write 2-3 grants a month. But a grant writer will write 15 grants a month. And that data is gold. It is gold for the demand side of our platform, but trust me, it is a lot of gold also for the supply side of the platform that are also wanting data to build questions that are driving innovation, that are helping the next big change maker get into an accelerator incubator. So our clients are incubators, accelerators, chambers of commerce, government, paragovernmental entity that's on the supply side building these questions and receiving applications and then disbursing money. So a lot of the funders are actually clients at Happly. And that's by design. We knew we had to have both-sided markets. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I have only thought about it from the perspective of
the demand side,
completing the grant. And it makes sense that obviously there's someone who's trying to make the other side of that deal happen. And this benefits them in that way too. All right. I'm convinced this can be used for anyone to go ahead and up their game when they're applying for grants. Sold. That's terrific. Now we're going to move on into our final section. So here we go. We always end these episodes with a rapid fire round. So I've got a whole bunch of questions from a long list of questions that I wanted to ask you early in the podcast, but instead I'm just going to grill you really quickly. It's going to be yes or no, this or that, and we're just going to cruise right through them. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. All right. Non-dilutive funding versus VC, venture capital funding.
Non-dilutive every time. I think that when you know where to look, equity is very expensive. So non-dilutive.
The fintech in Canada today is better than it was 10 years ago. Agree or disagree?
Agree. The infrastructure has improved, but we still have a long way to go.
Government websites, overrated or underrated?
Oh, That's easy. Criminally overrated in terms of design. But in terms of what's actually hiding behind them, I would say underrated. So there are billions of dollars out there that just need to have a better UX. So they just need to just get better. Sorry.
I like that nuance. Like the value is there.
Oh, yeah.
But the interface is maybe a challenge. I like that. Starting a startup today, Montreal or San Francisco?
How about Montreal to build?
Okay.
And San Francisco to sell. How about that?
Ooh, that is interesting. Montreal to build, San Francisco to sell. Okay.
Let's go.
Because that's where the potential buyers are. Is that the idea?
Yeah, but I think also Montreal is anchored in culture, creativity. It's the AI hub of Canada and arguably the Western Hemisphere. The builders here and the talent here are highly underrated. But then the market, I mean, the US is just undeniable.
All right, that's great. Well, I think I've got a few coworkers who would fight you gladly on some of this, but being a Minnesotan, I don't have a horse in this race. So happy to let you take it. Democratizing funding versus democratizing information.
Ooh. Oh my God. Look at you making me reevaluate my life in a span of a quick minute.
They're both positives, right?
I'd say information first, because you can't access what you don't know exists, right? Okay. And now that I think about it, you're right. We are in the information business. We definitely, because funding's the outcome, but the core, the foundation is the information. Oh, that's a great, thank you, Luke, for that question. Look at you making me, I'll have to fine tune my algorithm for my own Happly profile in my Grad GPT.
Last one, software as a service in the age of AI. Is it overrated or underrated?
In my opinion, I think that it's underrated if you're building the infrastructure, if that makes sense. Okay. But it's overrated if you're building just a wrapper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Because I think there's a difference between both. And I think most people that are listening to this podcast will resonate with this. And I think sometimes some people that are not very technical might convolute the both. And that's a big conundrum because there is a difference, right? But yeah.
If you're building out the UI, if you're building out just the user interface and it doesn't have any...
Overrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because
pricing pressure is real, right? So customers are starting to ask themselves, why am I paying for your SaaS if I could potentially vibe code something or figure out something that could cover the price of 3 seats? And that's a legitimate question to ask yourself. Yeah.
So you need depth there in order 100%. For it to count. You need it to be something more substantial that's happening under the hood and isn't just, okay. All right. I like that. I have many follow-up questions based on that I want to ask, but I'm going to hold myself to the list that I wrote. Well, Thierry, thank you so much for joining the Agent Factory today. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about how to raise funding in this new world that we live in. Appreciate you being here. Any closing remarks before I kick you out of here?
I just want to say thanks. Thank you, Luke, and thanks to Google and the rest of the production team. That was an amazing experience, and I'm blessed and highly favored to have been partaking in it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. From all of us at Agent Factory, we're now powering down.